Okay, all right. Good morning. Welcome to this special June 1st, 2023 meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have just two items on county matters this morning. And a statement that I will make before we begin, though I believe there is nothing to the allegations that have been made. To avoid any perception of self-interest, I will recuse from this meeting and leave these decisions in the hands of the balance of the board. I will pass the gavel to the vice chair. You may.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you. Under county matters, we have one item of Board of Supervisors. 1.1, discuss and/or potentially remove current Board of Supervisor chair. And 1.2, if needed, appoint new chair. So at this point, we take any questions from the board before we go to public comment. Heidi, did you have any questions?
I have no questions.
No? Okay. Then we'll open up for public comment.
Hi, good morning, Kay Graves from Lewiston. I guess everybody's just here to watch. So I haven't come to these meetings since December 2019, but this has compelled me to make the drive. So I'm guessing this pertains to your April 24th meeting. Because there's no backup material. There's no reasons given. There's no nothing in backup material. It'll probably show up later, but there's nothing for us to base our comment on. So I'm going to go with that. So I'll just say this about your April 24th meeting. What you did during that meeting was illegal on several points. Not only did you change the agenda after the meeting, which is illegal, you did it twice. You somehow added an FP. Well, it should have been a California Public Record Act request, but for some reason, Margaret answered a FOIA, which is federal. So, and then she outed the chair's private emails on closed session items. And then you allowed people to comment on something that wasn't on the agenda. So all it was closed session, and you allowed people to come up and comment. And what brought two former supervisors and a former planning commissioner and two elected officials to come up and speak on something that wasn't posted is also suspicious. And by the way, Terry McBrower as treasurer and Shannon White as clerk assessor recorder speaking as they did was a violation of the Hatch Act, if you're worried about the law, which Trinity County isn't, so that's fine. If you're thinking that a supervisor can't seek outside counsel, that is not correct. And I have emails from former Supervisor Groves to say that he's done the same thing. So if you're going after Chair Cox for this, then why wasn't it an issue with Supervisor Groves and others who did it? You have a county council, and I've sent this to the board. I've sent emails on you're violating the law by having a law firm as your county council. You're violating the law, not posting your minutes in a timely manner. They're supposed to be posted within 10 days, at least the factual summation of them, and you're posting nothing for over 9 months. And that's this board and the former board, and it's still Margaret Long. I've sent you repeatedly that you can, the county code and California law states very clearly you cannot have a law firm as your county council, yet Margaret Long and Prentice Long have been acting as your county council as a group for court cases, for all sorts of public documents, for sitting in at meetings. It's all illegal. And you guys know that because I've sent you the law and I've sent you all this. I just want the public to know that you guys know that you're totally breaking the law. So you got a lot of nerve going after Jill Cox for whatever she's done that we don't know what she did. Thank you very much.
Other public comment in the room?
Yes.
We're going to go in the room first. Thank you.
I think the thing that bothers me most about the emails that were given out to other people is that if this stuff was closed session things, then why were they not redacted? None of this stuff that's not for the public should not have been seen. And when the county council sends stuff out without it being redacted, when the grand jury asked for stuff and that stuff was redacted. When I was on the grand jury, if she had done that to me, I would have had the marshal go and get the paperwork. So, I mean, there are issues here that are really deep. And the other issue I have is that the chair runs the meeting and that's all she does. She runs the meeting. I mean, you guys can do whatever you want on it, but all she does is ceremonial work. So to replace her because of that doesn't make sense to me.
Good morning. My name is Mary Cole. Nothing has disturbed me more than what we are seeing in Trinity County at this time. I believe Mr. Groves called it the worst travesty to happen in Trinity County. Really, Mr. Groves? What about the homelessness, lack of affordable housing, the severe economic issues facing Trinity County businesses today, the slow progression for issuing cannabis licenses, or even our Trinity Lake water distribution issues? These were all issues while you, Mr. Groves, were a member of our Board of Supervisors. I have lived in Trinity County for 10 years. I relocated from the East Coast upon leaving corporate life. While working for multi-million-dollar companies, I was in a number of positions where I would be doing a disservice to our company if I did not thoroughly research matters that would greatly affect the future and well-being of our company and our employees. We had many outside vendors and contracts that needed to be reviewed and negotiated each and every year. That was a tough job because many of the vendors became like family to us. However, vendors understood that if they were competitive, provided good service and a good product, they had nothing to fear about losing their contract. To not review contracts was a failure on management part. It's not a vendetta, just a good business practice that Jill was practicing. I would like to quote from a letter to the editor written by Ryan Lynn. It seemed curious to me that Cox was linked to employee morale, economic issues, and the failure of the marijuana program. End of quote. Would not department heads and human resources, which fell under county council's oversight, be responsible for low morale in their departments, not any one supervisor? Much of these failures can be linked directly to the county council office. I would like to address the comment of Jill Cox being the reason for the failure of the marijuana program. Last evening, I researched the first ordinance drafted for commercial cannabis cultivation. A special agenda meeting of the TC Board of Supervisors was held on August 3rd, 2017. Chairman John Fenley, Vice Chairman Keith Rose, Supervisors Judy Mars and Bobby Chadwick. District 4 was vacant. This meeting was all about Trinity County Zoning Ordinance 315, commercial marijuana cultivation. Margaret Long was county counsel. No mention of Jill Cox in that meeting. Jill never joined the BOS until January 2021. So 3.5 years went by without Jill influencing anyone. And how far did our Board of Supervisors get with the cannabis ordinances? A complete mess and total disorganization. You cannot blame Jill Cox for the state the cannabis department is in at this time. It falls 100% on our Board of Supervisors, starting back in 2015, 2016. Jill Cox should not be judged on private emails that were very hurriedly released to the public by members of the Prentice Long Law Firm. Based on everything I have read and researched, my vote is to retain Jill Cox in the position as chairman, which she so rightly deserves. Let Jill show you all the passion she has for this county, and her voting will speak volumes to all. That is what we have elections for. This should not be determined by people who have an axe to grind because they don't like a particular person.
I'll speak. Sam Brinkley, Lewiston. I find it terribly interesting that we keep calling these emails private emails. It's written on a public server, and she's a public servant. And I don't think the outrage is because Jill Cox is anti-marijuana. It's the fact that she is working behind the scenes for TAA illegally. And it's not just Jill, it's Rick. If you saw this week's newspaper, you could read the letter from Underwood to Jill and to Rick discussing every sort of county business. Talking about getting rid of an ad hoc committee, Jim Underwood even ghostwriting their staff reports. In last week's paper, Rick here says he only knows Underwood, or he rarely sees Underwood outside of Rotary. Rotary seems to be the good. Rotary International thinks about all these politicians who get caught doing illegal. The word here is illegal. It is illegal for Rick and Jill to work behind Margaret Long's back. Okay, and then try to fire her in a closed door meeting for performance that they sabotaged. You know, I see the paper. It sure is fluff for Jill. Lots of support. What I don't see in those comments is I support Jill trying to take funding from children over a personal beef because she's a godly woman. I don't hear that. I don't see I support Rick working behind Margaret Long's back. I support Rick working with Underwood to cost businesses more money. 2 people I know in the cannabis program have committed suicide this year. I spoke with a farmer yesterday at he's having a mental health crisis. Rick has supported Friends of Grass Valley Creek. He's submitted emails to Jill outlining the weaknesses that the county did in the cannabis program and how to exploit them. Rick, Smokehouse Market's down $70,000 since TAA took our licenses. And anyone who has followed this has seen the way TAA has tried to max pain for the growers, pressuring the sheriff to enforce against state licensed farms. Rick, you are just as guilty as Jill, and the emails in yesterday's paper show so. You should be investigated along with Jill. You and Jill are a team. And to say in the paper that you don't know any TA members, you don't know Paul Hauser, okay? You don't know Heidi Hauser, you don't know Underwood. And I find it infuriating that you stopped a meeting to let what you admitted in the paper, the one TA member you knew, the president, interrupt a meeting so you could just let her have her way.
Your time is up.
Yeah, I know. Your time's up, Rick. Your time's up.
Next.
My name is Vicki Williams. I'm a Weaverville person, work here and I work at the hospital. All I can say is what I'm hearing and what I've read. Let me tell you about Jill. I only know Jill I'm not a buddy with her. I just know Jill is one of the most honest women I have ever met. And she is all about this community. It's not about Jill. It's about this community. And that is why we voted for her to be in office. You can read whichever you want in the paper. Not everything in the paper is true. People write accusations because they don't like this person, because it doesn't benefit them. So when I hear people bad-mouthing our supervisors who were put in there for a reason, they were not put in there just to be put in there for power. Although there are some that want the power who think that because they're now in this position, they can do whatever they want and they benefit it. If you want to know everything, it's open. It's all posted in Trinity County. Money has been gone. The Prentice Long Group has benefited quite a bit of money from this cannabis thing. If you go and you look, a lot of money since they've taken office or taken that position. They have not left that position and they're supposed to have their contract reviewed every 4 years. They've been in that position. They have not switched. All they have to do is switch a county person. A different lawyer could step in instead of Margaret. But the thing about it is, look at where the money's going. Just follow it and you will see. We can get good counsel, we can get bad counsel. Bad counsel, they still get paid. We lose that money. So regardless of what's been written in the paper, I'm just telling you, Jill is a good person and she's thinking about us, her district, and what she can do to make it right for this district. And if people don't let her do her job, we're going to continue going down that hole of wherever the money's going. But we need to have people like Jill and Rick and everybody. I don't know everybody else on this board meeting, but we need people like them to be doing the work for us. That's why we put them in office. Thank you.
Somebody left something up here. Not sure whose it is. Shanna White, county resident. I've been here for over 40 years. I'm also the county clerk, recorder, assessor, and registrar of voters. I thought, should I speak today or have I said enough? Because I speak at every one of these meetings about Jill's actions. Then I thought about my beliefs. And it's not me to sit back and watch shady, unethical actions happen. I'm sure, excuse me, you can all have your time when you stand up here. Thank you very much. I'm sure there are some that don't like what I'm saying, but we're all adults and we can agree to disagree. You can even hate me at the end, but I believe I have to do what is right. I agree, doing your research is necessary for those making decisions. But is Jill making decisions based on the information she receives, or is she a puppet for the few that she represents? Jill has a lot of support, and I'm not sure how they are so blinded by her actions and think she's ethical and doing what is right by the citizens of this county. Examples, in the paper, a guy that supported Jill and complained about me about his back taxes. I'm not the tax collector. I'm the assessor, clerk, recorder, registrar of voters. Blinded. Scott White, and he's no relation to me, if everyone thinks he is, spoke about his case where Jim Underwood was his attorney, but yet sending emails back and forth with Jill. Is that right? Blinded. I'm not saying she hasn't done anything good, but what I am saying is she's done some bad things. Jill has changed the government's manual at the first meeting, and I know she's listening. This was directed to her. You say without change, District 1 would not be represented. Isn't that what they did to District 3? Liam, if he doesn't run in 2024, or if he should be defeated, wouldn't District 3 lose the opportunity to be represented by Liam, the guy they voted for? One would ask themselves, was there a reason she wanted Rick to be her vice chair? This has nothing to do with cannabis, county council, or a personal vendetta against Jill. There's been non-cannabis folks, there's been cannabis folks, there's been a couple department heads that spoke to Jill's unethical actions. But maybe it is about council, because that's what seems all her supporters have to talk about. County council did this. County council's making all this money off the county. Removing Jill as chair and from committees is not enough. Jill should resign immediately. Quit being a puppet for the people that she represents. Thank you.
Next.
Good morning, Travis Finch. I think regardless of where anyone falls on this issue in this country, we do have something called due process. And it is my understanding that a third-party investigation is ongoing at the moment into Jill's alleged misconduct. And I think until that investigation is concluded, this board should not make any decision on whether or not to remove Jill as chair. Thank you.
Morning, Jennifer Hill, District 3. wow, I thought this was bad, but it keeps getting worse. I wonder the real amount of economic devastation that this has caused in the last 2 years. I mean, all you have to do is look around. Families leaving, property values dropping, businesses closing. It's not hard to see. In fact, actually, you can't miss it. I'm not sure if that's your mission, like complete economic devastation and economic desert. But us growers, you know, we aren't bad people. We're just trying to play by the rules here. And I understand you hate me, you hate any cannabis grower, but at this trying time, it's kind of a bad look. Allowing yourself to be influenced, to set county agenda, trying to disband ad hoc committees, which are working so diligently to bring forth important information that you claim not to understand. You understand it all. And it seems to me you're doing everything you can to make legal and compliant cannabis farming completely non-existent here. Carve out zone this, opt out zone that. Like this is all you and your friends and playing out your personal agenda and ruining countless families' lives because they happen to live in your coveted neighborhood. Rick, this is not trustworthy. Seeing you also on these emails. We would hope as an elected official that you're taking your responsibility seriously, and lying to your constituents does not seem very trustworthy, nor like the right thing to do here. Why would you lie about something like this in the first place? Unless there's something more to cover up. It's a team operation and it's kind of telling. We're looking to you other supervisors now to save us here, to allow commerce to flow and honesty to prevail. Please do the right thing here. Jill has got to go and be held responsible. Please absolutely do not replace Jill with Rick. Otherwise, economic deprivation will continue. Honesty's gone now. Trust is gone. We're looking to you three supervisors to lead us in a way that I know you can. We're thankful for you doing your job. I know doing the right thing is not always easy. If only that were the case. Thank you.
Next.
Good morning. Could you wait to start my 3 minutes? Because I have a 3-minute story, so I want to introduce myself first. My name's Tom Waltz. I am a retired forester, and I am represented in District 2, but up until redistricting, I was represented by Liam in District 3. So I am not a member of TAA. I have a neighbor directly adjacent to my property who is a commercial cannabis grower. So I have no bone to pick in this issue. But I do want to tell a little bit of a story here, and begins in early Trinity County. There were 5 prospectors, and they were out looking for gold, but they didn't find any. They did find a bunch of skunkweed, though. And they thought, we could get this skunkweed and bring it to market, but it has to get legalized. So those 5 prospectors, they loaded up a bunch of that skunkweed and they headed towards town. But they came to the raging Trinity River, snow melt, flood, water flowing everywhere, but they had to get across the river. Well, those 5 prospectors, they were on 5 horses. And those 5 horses, they named them some strange names. There was Heidi, there was Liam, there was Jill, there was Rick, there was Dan. They were good horses. They did their job. Well, when it came to that raging river, old Jill was really burdened with that load of skunkweed that she was carrying. And she kind of reared up, and that prospector riding her fell right off of that horse. Boy, he was mad. He said, that dang horse, we ought to get rid of her. She ain't no good. But one of the wiser prospectors said, you know what? You don't know horses. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put old Dan. He's been in the woods his whole life. He knows how to cross turbulent times. We're going to put him in front of Jill. And then we're going to take big old bone Liam. Yeah, he's got that muscular build. We're going to put him on the upstream side, and he's going to break the current, stop some of that turbulence. And then we're going to take one of the newcomers, Heidi, we're going to put her on the downstream side. She's going to stop the drift. And old Rick, we're going to put him right behind, and he's going to nudge her along and encourage her. And we're going to work as a team. And when those 4 horses or 5 horses entered that raging, turbulent river, they crossed it together as a team, and they were able to successfully bring that skunk weed to market and legalize it. But the moral of that story is, if you get rid of the horse, you never work as a team. And that's what I'm encouraging you today to do, is work as a team. Don't look to point fingers at each other. In fact, one common proverb is that be careful who you try to paint with a scarlet letter, because you end up with red paint all over your own hands. Thank you.
Next.
Good morning, board. Thanks for having this meeting and addressing this issue. Murray Peterson, District 2. I moved. I wanted to say I'm about as local as it gets. I know people want to see a lot of the South County folks as unlocal. Maybe you guys don't know my history, but I was born in Weaverville, raised in Hayfork. And I love Trinity County more than any other place in this world. I cannot imagine a place I'd rather be. It's been treacherous since 2016, just for us to fight to have the ability to have an economy, which has always been here. This is the Emerald Triangle. This is world-class cannabis that's produced here. And it's really sad to me to see a special interest, self-serving group cause so much damage to all the people here. So today I stand up here with the indigenous people and the people of the South County that have always throughout history been destroyed by the self-righteous citizens of Weaverville. I stand with the 530 businesses that had to shutter their doors right after COVID hit and destroyed a lot of other business prospects due to a legacy of purposeful mistakes by our leadership and delays in CEQA, which the first day that our former CAO went into office, Deidre Brower and I were in his office begging him to start CEQA. And county council told us at that time that they were trying to figure out what the drop dead date was to start CEQA. It was beyond the drop dead date. There were only 9 months until the deadline that it needed to be started. I stand up here now with the children that are hungry, whose parents have had to go to the food banks because of the impact of the TAA lawsuit. We want to have the freedom to operate businesses in this community. We want to be able to export nationwide eventually and no longer be held back. This county's economy is dependent on cannabis tourism, future cannabis tourism, and the cannabis industry. TAA, the gig is up today. Please, board, do not allow the cancer that is TAA and Jill Cox to remain the chair of the board with the current economic climate and the fallout of the COVID business shutdowns and TAA lawsuit. We cannot afford an anti-business self-serving chair that will hold the economic recovery back in Trinity County. There is no place for anti-business, anti-American, conniving puppet that is led by the special interest group. And Rick, we see your campaign contributions as well.
Hi, Melissa Matrevsky, District 2. I hate public speaking, but after reading all the emails, I wanted to say just a little something. Jill has ultimately failed our community and should really honestly resign from her position, not just be taken down from chair. Maybe she is a Stravano Yagne, what we call a scapegoat, or maybe she is completely to blame. All I know is after reading all the emails, she should not have included Jim Underwood in emails that clearly should have been sent to county council. Concerning Scott White, with Jim being his lawyer, Jim should not have been conversing with Jill about his client's matters, especially with her apparent distaste in those emails towards Scott White. Not only that, the comments she made about Carla were childish. Who talks like that? I mean, isn't she the least bit ashamed of her actions? Because it's not showing when she's up here about it. She's kind of has a wanton attitude. It makes one wonder how she conducts herself in person outside of these meetings and those emails. I plead with the board to have a thorough conversation about Jill and her emails today, and please come to the conclusion that she is unfit for the position that she holds. Thank you.
Kelly Sheen, Weaverville. I've been here all my life, by and large. And I've been working in resource management and conservation for 30 years in this community. And I didn't know what I was going to say today because obviously I have dear and close friends on both sides of this particular issue. And my heart is pounding because, you know, all I can speak to, because I'm not going to speak to specifics with regard to, I don't know enough of the details to fully get a formed opinion about whether she's right or she's wrong. But I can speak to the fact that I have known Jill since before she was a supervisor. And I've never seen a supervisor that had done more diligence to learn about the ins and outs of how politics work within this community and this county. I've not seen one that's done more work to bring herself into a position to make proper decisions for the people of this county. And I can only observe how much she cares for the community, not only of Weaverville, but for the community of Trinity County, and the efforts that she's made both with our partners at the Forest Service, BLM, the work that she's done with Rachel Berkey, the work that she's done with, at all the representatives down in Sacramento. I have a great deal of respect for how much effort she has put in to making proper decisions for the people of Trinity County. And again, I think people make mistakes. I think that Jill thinks outside the box. I think she's always looking for the best way to address any given situation. These are just simply my observations. I've appreciated the engagement that I've had with her in dealing with resource management and conservation and everything else that she has done for the people of this county. Thank you.
Anyone else in the room? Oh, couple, okay.
Catherine Sidman Lewiston. Thank you, supervisors, and for agendizing this issue and having the conversation before us. I do appreciate each of you for your service. And I include Jill when I say that I don't think there's a person on the dais who doesn't have the best interest of Trinity County at the heart of the work that they do. As I've read the recent outpouring of support for Supervisor Cox in the Journal, I agree with nearly every accolade, vote of confidence, and warm regard that's been stated on her behalf. Today, we're not here because of all the good and right things that Jill Cox has done and continues to do for the community in big and small ways over a long period of time. We're here to examine her own words and work that has been published to us recently. Just as it is true that Supervisor Cox is a great church member, an excellent piano teacher, a fantastic community volunteer, and community advocate, it also appears true that she pulls strings for her friends. She shares county legal strategy with opposing counsel, and she relies far too heavily on people that clearly do not have Trinity County's best interests in mind. For those who've not found the time or interest to read Jill's emails, here are the ones that stand out to me. Supervisor Cox engaging with the attorney of a resident about his project. Supervisor Cox receiving a fully written staff report from Jim Underwood and encouraged to try to put it in her own words so it doesn't sound so, quote, Jim the lawyer. Jim Underwood organizing and strategizing committee assignments and then going out to lunch with board members to decide what committees you all are going to be on. Requesting the attention of multiple department heads and the sheriff to deal with a nuisance property that bothered one of her Rotary friends. 4 department heads and the sheriff. If that access to government is available, put a form on your website because we'll all give you a nuisance property that you could work on for us. But that's not available to me. Finally, that Carla email where Supervisor Cox threatened to pull funding from the arts because she didn't like someone's public comment, offensive public comment, where she spoke about local flavor in the historic district. We haven't had any apologies, not real ones, not for the lapses of judgment, not for the personal threats or retribution. We also haven't had any accountability. If it's okay to use Jim Underwood to write staff reports, hand them to you and say, hey, Jim wrote this. It sounds a little lawyery. Do it out in the open if you're going to do it. I want this investigation done quickly, and I think it will be expedited if Jill is temporarily removed from chair and committees until that investigation is complete. That's the leadership we look for today.
Hi, my name is Jessie Linthorpe. I'm from Lewiston. And I have to say, I don't actually know everything that's going on. I have known Jill for 30 plus years, and I've always found her to be moral and ethical in everything I've ever seen her do. So that's all.
Hi, Supervisors. Dana Hauser from Hayfork. That was interesting what Kelly Sheen said, that there's 2 sides to this issue. I think that the 2 sides are ethical and non-ethical. Thanks.
Is there anyone else in the room that would like to comment?
Hi, excuse me, Anna Parr from Weaverville. I loved Tom's story about sticking together in hard times. And I just want to say, if this was, ever to come to something like a recall, District 2 would not recall Jill. District 2 wants Jill. We support Jill. We see what she's done for the community. We see her going out picking up trash with people. We see, on her own time, volunteering. She cares about this community. She cares. And she pours everything that she has into this community. And I think it speaks volumes that she's just not running away from a mess like this. The public slander, the embarrassment, the shame being heaped on. I think it speaks a lot to her character that she's not just going to give up and go. And it's times like these, you who worked with her, you know what she does, you know how she works, you know what that she does her homework. Have you met anybody? Has anybody ever met anybody that does her homework like Jill? She goes in and she goes hard and she finds what she needs to find to improve our community, to try to make sure things are going the way they should be going. And again, I commented a few weeks ago, I find it very peculiar that when she was maybe getting a little too close to some hot buttons, all of a sudden, there's this, please give me all the records. Well, not only were the records given that were requested, but what was handed out to the public was well beyond what was requested. So if you're going to be going through turbulent waters, remember that you are all available to go through turbulent waters, and you want to know each other and you want to work together, because hard times come, difficult things come. And especially if you're going to do your homework and you're going to go hard and you're going to go after the things that don't look like they're going well, things that might look a little shady, hot buttons, powerful people, and all of a sudden, maybe you're the one who they're sending out all the things for. So I encourage you all to stick together, go through this. There is an investigation. I don't know why people think nothing's happening. There's an investigation going on. So I encourage you, keep going forward. Don't jump to conclusions. And yes, thank you for all that you do. Thank you.
Any other comments in the room? Okay, Ashley? Oh, we have one more, Ashley.
Pasha from Hayfork. And thank you to all the Board of Supervisors for taking the time to listen. I may not know Jill Cogs in person. I may not have seen her done a lot of great works, and I heard a lot of people saying that she did. She's a wonderful person, and we appreciate that she is an advocate. She loves the community. However, we cannot take an unethical persons who we cannot trust to represent her because she's only represent a part of her side of the interest. It just that's just not the way how she's going to be leading this Board of Supervisors to bringing more contributions to generating more business to this Trinity County. What she does is helping and align with the TAA to prevent economic growth here in Trinity County. So we would like you guys to bring in investigations to put it down, make sure that whoever served as a Board of Supervisor is trustworthy, it is ethical, is representing the majority, the body of the whole, the community, and best is the constituents that they're representing. What the actions, according to the news report that we read and we heard about, it's not acceptable for her to sit on the board. It's not acceptable for her to leading this Board of Supervisors anymore. So I'm just asking that from the minority as myself, we would like to see somebody who is going to be trustworthy to take the leads and to be able to bring the Trinity back to life to generate more business and contribute back to the economic and the Trinity County. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Heather Center. I live in Weaverville. I've been here since '02. I'm going to keep it real short. I don't know a lot of the details of what's happening. I do hear a couple things that I think we need to be careful of. I don't want to be a part of cancel culture. I would like an investigation, if that's what's happening, to be completed before anyone's making any kind of quick decisions. Also, I don't think it's right for someone to be tried in the paper. I feel like that's not fair. I do stand behind Jill. I've known her for 20 years. She's always been sound and ethical, in my opinion. I did tell her when she was running to be the supervisor, I think you can win. And I said, go in there and kick some ass. I think she's shaking things up, and I think that's a lot of what's happening to her right now. Because when we have status quo and good old boy club and everything just rolls on down around, and then someone comes in that says, I'm going to ask questions and I'm not just going to walk down this little path like we've always been doing. We need change. That's why we voted for her, and I stand behind her.
Good morning, Acting Chair Lewiler and Supervisors Lisa Wright from Lewiston. I really hadn't planned to say anything, but I kind of want to just clarify. I think it's very important when the appropriateness of actions of any supervisor are called into question and a formal investigation is launched. I think it's really up to you as the rest of the board to decide if that's who you want as your leader, right? As the chairperson to really run the affairs of your board. One of the concerns I would have if I was sitting on the other side would be, will decisions, say pending this investigation, if she would continue to remain in this position, if the investigation is not in her favor, will the actions of the board, which she was leading, be called into question potentially? That would be my concern. So I would, if I was a supervisor, be more comfortable with probably having her just step aside during this time of the investigation and not be the leader, someone who, not saying she's innocent, guilty, whatever, but I would want that clarification before really feeling like she could lead the board. But it's really up to you, right? You're the supervisors who work with her and have, supported her as the chairperson. So that would be my suggestion, is that please, look to your group. And I'm looking forward to your conversation about how you feel about a chair that's under investigation continuing in that position. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Zoom.
William Foster.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. There's quite a few things about this that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You've got cannabis growers who seem to be jumping on the bandwagon to attack Jill, even though she didn't exist in her position when all of the problems with cannabis were, kind of brought into existence. And they were brought into existence by county council. The county council is the one that gave the advice for cannabis and had all the issues. And then they seem to forget the investigation where the sheriff's office raided the planning department to pull documents because she's alleged to have told the planning department people to backdate and sign a cannabis application. Everybody forget that happened? I find it very interesting that, the focus was county council, and now all of a sudden the focus is all on Jill simply because she agreed with the grand jury that an effort should be made to review county council's performance. And then let's talk about the investigation. It hasn't been completed. It seems to me that if the reason whoever called for Jill to resign or be removed, I should say, is based on the emails, there's an investigation and that hasn't been completed yet. We don't know what she did was wrong. And if it was wrong, then action should be taken. But that investigation hasn't happened in full. It's not completed. So it's premature to be removing her as the chair until you've completed that investigation. If the other reason you brought this to the agenda is for public outcry, then I got to ask, where is the rationale in that? Since the overwhelming amount of voices are in support of her, not in opposition to her. So it's premature because the investigation hasn't been completed. And more importantly, if it's based on, for the good of the public and their happiness, then, why are you basing it on so few people complaining and so many people standing up for her? So this is wrong. You shouldn't be doing this yet. Wait till the investigation is completed. If she has been found to have done something wrong or illegal, then by all means, she needs to be removed as chair and as a supervisor. But this shouldn't be happening now. This is way premature, and I don't understand why it has been fast-tracked. I can't help but wonder what is going on behind the scenes to make this happen. Thank you.
Steve Lyon.
Hi, it's Steve Lyon, Junction City. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you for calling this special meeting. I agree with Supervisor Frazier that this format so far has not been a great way to address this issue. 3-minute jabs, as he put it, or 3-minute character references are a poor way to discuss pretty much any issue. However, in my opinion, I think Chair Cox seems to be a good person, and there have been a bunch of people giving character references, and I'm sure there's going to be quite a few more lining up to speak about her great character. I agree. I also think her intentions for this community are decent intentions. I think she means well for the community she represents, even though I disagree with her on some issues. However, good people with good character can still make mistakes, and good people can still violate laws, rules, and ethics. This also is not about the need to review county council. I think pretty much everybody agrees that it's okay and proper to review county council. Great, let's review it. However, for me, what is at issue here is the fact that the chair of the board was secretly copying emails to an opposing attorney who is actively involved in at least one lawsuit against the county. And the chair of the board and an attorney suing the county were discussing how to get rid of the current county attorney, how to do it quietly and how to do it quickly before anyone can stop it, and to replace county council with someone who is friendlier to the very group who is suing the county. This is blatantly unethical. Despite what your opinions and your feelings are about Ms. Cox's character, no matter your opinion of her work or her community activism, this is unethical. So I ask you to put aside your emotions and your personal feelings and look at the facts. This is unethical. And in my opinion, Chair Cox has lost my trust, which was hard gained after all the baloney and shenanigans that have gone on to this point. This is unethical. And the question is, will there be consequences from this board? I support the investigation. Look forward to the outcome of it. And thank you for your time.
Veronica Kelly, Albies.
Good morning, Supervisors. Veronica Kelly Albies, Douglas City. What a sad situation we are faced with on many levels. Thank you, Supervisor Frazier, for prioritizing this important discussion. Snippets was the right word choice in describing how this attack works. Cherry-picked correspondence designed to manipulate frustrations, looking for a tangible target to blame, is a sad choice of politics. We have a group of residents that have been fighting for years to move their businesses forward in a quagmire of county red tape, or residents dissatisfied with any county decision in their subject of choice. It seems ironic that a great deal of the conversation revolves around an attorney described as someone Supervisor Cox should not trust. I mean, how dare she get any input from a lawyer who was successful in representing his clients, also residents of Trinity County who had a right to have their concerns addressed. If you shouldn't communicate on any level with someone in litigation with the county, there are people in that room or online that will have their voices stifled. Supervisor Cox's correspondence shows the good, the bad, and the ugly of doing her job. It also shows some missteps in protocol. You can look at her record and see she represents her district, not one person or specialty group. She gathers information to make informed decisions. I would imagine each of you and past board members have received suggested ways you could or should be doing your job by groups and individuals. I would even go so far as to consider some of that correspondence was intricately specific, maybe even typed up ready for your letterhead, should you determine, after much research, of course, that it will work. Should I assume that you are their puppet? CAO Trenthill, I implore you to make sure the investigation underway is wide and thorough. I too want to know the truth, even if it is not how I see it today. Make sure context is involved and full intent, not snippets. I encourage this board to get back to work on several important issues that Trinity County faces. Pointing fingers, taking cover, misdirecting conversation is an ugly side of politics. Asking the hard questions, looking for answers, organizing the data, making hard decisions that you know will leave some dissatisfied, sitting in a chair while people spew venom at you, looking them in the eye to hear them, taking note of what you can do better to serve, saying thank you and meaning it, that is a leader. Supervisor Cox should remain as chair. Thank you for listening.
Nancy Anderson.
Yes, hi, Nancy Anderson from Lewiston. Thank you for giving us all a voice. I really think that we need to make truth the goal. That's I think I've heard and I agree with statements on both sides of the equation that it is the truth that we want. I think the decision before you guys today is simply where should Jill stand while that truth is sought. I am leaning, as others have said, towards keeping her in place until the investigation is done. But I can see the merit of the other side. I just think we live in a political culture right now where if something's said enough times over and over and over again, no matter how untrue it is, that it becomes a truth that is actually a lie. And I've heard that repeatedly on mostly one side of this equation, but I'm sure it's happened on the other side as well. But I think we should still focus on finding the truth, allowing an independent look at this from eyes. And thank God we have a brand new CAO who can't be tarnished by either side. That I think that's the best solution, to have a fair look at what really happened. If there's unethical things, then sure. Consequences, perhaps, from whatever venue that would come from. But I just really believe that, I'm going to quote the Bible here. Proverbs talks about how, Proverbs 10:19 says that when the multitude of words, transgression is unavoidable. In other words, the more words that come out of people's mouths, the more likely there is to be a lie in there, or a harsh, untrue, unkind thing. So I would encourage you all to listen to the voices that aren't being spoken, the voices of past voters making their opinion known about how they want the county to have a change of leadership. But I also want you to hear the voices that are speaking and the voices of reason that are speaking, and not the minority of loudmouths that continue to harp on things that may or may not be true. So I wouldn't envy your job at all. God bless you for trying and for persevering. And
No.
I'll pray for your decision making. Thank you.
Amber.
Hello, board. My name is Amber Carmen. I am a resident of Weaverville. I'm also a property owner in Weaverville. I'm also a business owner and commercial real estate owner in Weaverville. So as a district constituent, I would really appreciate my voice to be heard. I'm not trying to be a loudmouth as someone else has described here. I'm just trying to have my voice heard, and I think this is the most proper venue for that. I just would like to say, as a constituent of Jill's, I have been very unheard by her. She has not represented me or my business in this climate at all. I'm very disappointed with how she has treated her constituents. I have emails that have been unanswered by her in regards to the economic downturn in Weaverville. It's very sad that I can't even have my emails answered by her when I've done nothing to her other than try to support this community and this county. I feel that while this investigation is taking place, she should not be a she should not be a party. She should not be on the chair until the investigation is complete. It shouldn't matter. She should be in school suspension, for lack of a better term, while this investigation takes place. That's pretty standard, I do believe. So I am in full support of having her at least be stepped down from the chair position while this investigation takes place. I really don't have a whole lot more to say about this, other than what I've already said, and just hearing people across the board on both sides. We all want the truth. We all want our board representatives to be ethical and to also hear their constituents, not just the constituents that you play with after board hours, or that you recreate with, or that you do extra community activities with. These are the constituents that you don't hear from. Maybe travel around the county and talk to them. I do. And I don't even get paid for it. I think it's very valuable for all board members to learn a valuable lesson from this, and maybe paying more attention to your people and listening to them rather than your own personal agendas should be a priority. Thank you, guys.
Hello, this is Terry Mines.
Can you pause for one moment, please, Terry?
Okay.
We have Rhoda Kane next.
Hi, this is Rhoda Kane from Trinity Center. I just, I guess maybe I'm repeating what some people said, but I'm just gonna, so this is not a cannabis issue. This is not about whether or not Jill Cox is a good supervisor or a hard worker. This is not about county council. This is bigger than that. This is about secret communication and legal advice from an attorney that has cost this county millions of dollars. TAA does not seem to support Trinity County. Jim Underwood does not seem to support Trinity County. Maybe Supervisor Cox doesn't know any better, but Jim Underwood sure does know better. The evidence shows Jim Underwood and TAA are doing everything in their power to manipulate this county government on the board, on the planning commission. Who knows how many more pawns they have placed in our local government. Hopefully the investigation is going to root all of this out. But until then, I just, I worry about having somebody as a chairman of the board that is so deeply entrenched in this. Thank you.
Olivia.
Hello, this is actually from Jay Grossman Crest. I'm also a business owner in Weaverville. I am a LAFCO commissioner with Jill Cox. And I have been attending board of supervisor meetings and planning commission meetings and community workshops since 2016. I've heard a lot of people today in support for Jill Cox that have started out their speech by saying they don't really know what's going on. They haven't read the emails. They haven't this, they haven't that. You know, at this point, I kind of wish that I had no idea what was going on. What I find interesting is that until Jill Cox ran for supervisor, and in fact, until Rick for supervisor, I had never seen or heard from her at a community meeting regarding the board of supervisors of the planning commission. I also find it interesting that the entirety of communications and attempts to communicate with Jill Cox as a business owner in Weaverville, in her district, have been responded to with her saying it is inappropriate for her to talk to me because I was in litigation with the county. So is Jim Underwood on many levels. I'm not here to talk to anybody about what is legal or illegal, but I know that what's going on is grossly immoral. This is not Washington, D.C. We expect our politics in this county to be small town politics. We expect people to have differences of opinions. We don't expect people to be literally engaging in conspiracies.
Jake, we lost you. Oh, he's gone, disconnected?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Jake, is that you?
Yes, it's Jake. Sorry. I have read emails from Jill in this discovery or whatever we want to call it about myself. Emails from her to Jim Underwood asking what his opinion was on my motive to join a community group. I find that this point,
Can you pause time? Hey, Jake, you're breaking up. You're breaking up pretty badly. Do you want to continue or do you want to check back in? Your call. You want to save his 30 seconds and if he pops back in?
Chris Williams.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. This is Chris Williams from Weaverville, District 2. Jill Cox is my representative. There's a line in the play The Miracle Worker, opening at TPAC, June 30th, that I keep coming back to in regards to Supervisor Cox. Obedience without understanding is a blindness. I believe Jill wants what's best for our community, that her heart is in the right place. However, unbeknownst to her, she's lost her sight due to obeying someone other than the community at large she represents. It's we the people, not we some of the people. The emails illuminate who is the guiding light, and we didn't elect him. Jill may not have done anything illegal by seeking Jim Underwood's counsel in certain circumstances, but Underwood knew that it was unethical in the very least. He is a predator, and she is the prey. She has shared strategy with a lawyer in active litigation against the county. She has allowed him to write the staff report, to determine committee assignments, and the list goes on. Just read the emails. I have. Supervisor Cox is not doing her homework. She is copying the homework of someone else. I urge you to remove Jill as chair while this issue is being investigated. Please help rebuild our trust that our leaders are held accountable for their behavior, that there are consequences. Thank you.
Terry Mines.
There's been a lot of Terry Mines, Johnson City. There's been a lot of confusion here, like trying to say like the county council versus Jill Cox or the cannabis growers against Jill Cox. This has zero to do with that. I personally agree 100% with the grand jury report, and we should get rid of county council. So I don't know why anybody's trying to say that has anything to do with Jill Cox. Nope, that's separate. What we have here is unfortunately, and I'm not saying Jill Cox isn't a good person. I hear a lot of people stand up and say really nice things about her. But unfortunately, good people make mistakes, and they still have to be held accountable because we have children, remember, that we have to be role models for so that the next generations have an understanding of ethical and unethical behavior. And I remember Jill Cox getting up in front of all of us over and over explaining how she's here for the children. Well, if she's really here for those children, here's a perfect time to show her accountability for her mistake and resign. And, you know, I don't think Rick can be here and be involved in this either, understanding the emails involved. So, Rick, I think you need to step back also while the investigations take place and see your involvement in this, because the emails have shown you're involved. So now it's to the light of your involvement and stuff. I think, not saying you're a bad person, but I think that good people make mistakes, and you guys need to take some accountability for that. And this all starts with stepping back out of the investigations and out of your leadership while those all go through, or being the person that you say you are and actually resign, because that's what a person would do in this position that knows to hold themselves accountable. And that's the first thing about being an adult, is holding yourself accountable when you make mistakes, and you handle that responsibly. And we're in a position now that the county is in a very bad spot, specifically because of TAA, Jim Underwood, Judge Letton, and that group of people. They have destroyed our community by killing its economic opportunity. And everybody will say, oh, that's cannabis grower, this, that. No, it's actually just regular economics. We live in a United States of America, and it's a place where you're supposed to go out and work hard, and you have a group of people trying to stop another group of people from working hard in an agricultural industry that this community is very viable and could bring economic value here. So their personal agenda against the cannabis group, TAA, which Jim Underwood is the leading attorney and has been their master spokesperson, is destroying our community. So those are the actual true facts here. It's TAA, Jim Underwood, Judge Letton, and they're the people that are attacking our community and have destroyed an ordinance that was put in place by the people. So, holding
Terry,
those people
time is up.
Fine, Rick.
Have no other raised hands, no chats.
Anyone else in the room before we close public comment? Okay, public comment is closed. For us to have if we have questions now, we can ask them. Otherwise, if we want to have real conversation, we need to have a motion.
I had a question that, I don't know, maybe I probably shouldn't ask, so we'll go. Anyone care to make a motion?
I would just like to say I apologize for being late today.
All right, well. I don't have my agenda in front of me. We'll load, so I think I will make a motion to retain Jill Cox as chair. And if someone would second that, we can get into discussion.
I will second that for discussion purposes.
All right. First off, I mean, I have pages and pages of notes. I would like to address some of people's questions, but I don't think I'll get to all of them. So no offense if I miss you. One of my thoughts on this is I've looked back and it's like, I see no reason why we wouldn't keep Jill as chair because she hasn't shown any predisposition as chair to try to abuse that small amount of power. She hasn't attempted to keep anything off the agenda. She hasn't shut down public comment. So I don't see how her being in the chair is harmful to anyone. So if anyone has anything else they would like to weigh in with.
I have a comment that I would like to make. In the midst of this process, the Constitution of the United States of America has been brought up on multiple occasions. As a person who laid my hand on the Bible that my son was holding and swore to serve that Constitution, I have been thinking about it quite a bit lately. And there are a few things that are our rights within that document that we must allow in societies, even if we don't necessarily agree with them. One of them is freedom of speech, and we have experienced a significant amount of that luxury that this country gives us over the last several board meetings. We have sat here, including Jill at times, and have been accused of things that are not true. We have heard issues and concerns about things that are unknown. We have had accusations lured against us, and we have been called many things. And in some cases, we have been congratulated, respected, and appreciated. So with that said, I believe it is very important to remember that in this country, we have to be proven guilty. We are not guilty until proven guilty. We are innocent until proven guilty. It's hard sometimes. I've had violations on a personal level against people who admitted guilt, and still our system doesn't force them to remain in jail until their judgment day. And even on that judgment day, they're given arraignments that allow them to enter back into communities. And oftentimes they continue to commit crimes until those stack up to a point where they are put into jail. And even after that, they're allowed back out again. So today we are discussing the actions of Jill Cox, who she spoke with, whether or not that correspondence was something that should have been released or not. And we are looking for evidence by having a third-party investigator take on this challenge of really trying to dig up what really happened. If we were to dispose of all leaders who are under investigation, every president would have been asked to step down in current history. Our president right now is under investigation, the president before him, and the one before him, and the one before him. Currently, we have 30 members of Congress that are under investigation. If every leader in this nation, from these tiny county boards of supervisors all the way to the presidency, was made to step down because of investigation, we would have probably maybe only 60% of functioning leaders in this country. So I think it's important that we allow due process to happen. There is not a single person in this room who, if accused of something, would not want the opportunity to be fully represented and have that time and that space done and that due diligence shown to prove one way or the other. I'm not saying that some of the evidence that has been brought forth isn't disturbing, that some of it causes question, that some of it makes us wonder who is and who isn't. But what I am saying is that we need to take the time to allow investigation to go forward and to do our due diligence. Because I can assure you that in your lifetime, you will have accusations brought against you that are untrue or partially true. We all have chapters in our lives that we would not want read out loud. And so maybe we all have emails we wouldn't want read out loud, sorry. So I think it's important that we respect process because systems and structures are put in place to make sure that things move forward equitably for all people. And I'm here today hoping that we allow process to take place and that we trust the system. Because even if we can't trust the people, we need to trust the system. And the Constitution has been in existence for a very, very long time. And all of us are dependent on it. Because if it wasn't for real, and it wasn't here, and it wasn't present, and it wasn't ours, we would not even be having the opportunity to discuss these matters in front of each other today. So I'm sorry that people feel jilted. I'm sorry that people feel that they are not being heard or that things are have gone into disarray. That's disturbing. And I don't like that. But I also believe that we need to take the time to allow this investigation to move forward. And then when we find out what comes of it, then we'll make a decision from that day forward. Thank you for the time to speak.
It sounded like you had more that you wanted to get to, but Liam, did you want to?
Yeah, just had a couple comments here. First of all, Jill was very prepared. She wasn't, she didn't come here ill prepared. She was a very prepared supervisor, which isn't why we're here today. I guess my first question would be, with what we know, has Jill done anything illegal to this point? I would ask County Council.
County Council's not involved in that investigation. So you have to make your own judgment on that at this point.
So I guess that would have been what I was going to say. There is a quote, although County Council can't speak today, from County Council that says,
I don't think we can hear you, Liam.
Sorry,
in the recording.
there was a quote, I don't know if it was in the paper, maybe it was, that some of the things that Jill did was illegal. And I don't think, whether you like County Council or not, that she did not write that law. Perhaps some of the things Jill did was illegal. And as Heidi said, we all get accused of doing things as we sit up here, and as you guys sit out there, they probably aren't true. I was accused of things in the paper yesterday from one of the TAA board members of being in the pocket of the cabal of the cannabis industry, which is just not true. And then he finishes up by saying something that I think I would just want, actually I'll read it. It says, the beliefs are false, and I would state my opinion regarding Supervisor Godin's association with the cannabis constituency. I would say he is in the pocket of the cannabis industry and secretly part of a cabal that has initiated the attack upon Cox and Underwood. However, that is merely my opinion, as I judge a tree by its fruit. So if we're going to judge the tree by the fruit, make your judgment. He judged me by that. We see what the fruit is. We see what the tree is. Again, and this comes from one of the head of TAA, obviously, false allegations. Nonetheless, he's there to say that we can judge, the tree by the fruit, but we're not allowed to do that up here for some reason. It seems odd that he's held to a different standard than we're held to. Also, it's unfortunate. We should be doing a lot of other things here. There's a lot of people that are in favor of keeping Jill on the board. A lot of people who aren't. I think if this was held in my district, you would have an outpouring of people saying, hey, we want Liam to stay. Same with Dan, same with Heidi if it was in their district. So the outpouring is probably, more geographical because of where we're at in District 2 right now. It's a tough call for all of us. I find it hard to believe that you cannot be swayed by a certain organization that you've had several hundred emails with, that is in litigation with Trinity County at this time and has been before. And as I said before, it wasn't her first choice to go to our county council. And this is from the beginning, not just since the grand jury report, but from the beginning, it seems as if Jill went to her own counsel to counsel her on what to do as a board member. When we have county council, which seems to be the obvious place to go, whether you thought county council was right or wrong. And there has been some, we'll say, some subversion of the process here. The process, and it had to do with me, and I don't know who mentioned it today, but next year I was supposed to be supervisor or chair of Trinity County as District 3 supervisor. Day one, on Jill's chairmanship here, she lets me know that she's going to change that around. That District 3 is not going to be next in line. It'll be District 1 because they're not getting served enough. Which when it pans out, it's actually just kicking me out, putting him in, not letting District 3 get the representation in the process that had already been going along. She changed the process that had been in place. So,
well, just a second, Liam. I have to interrupt you there because Jill didn't change the process. Jill brought it to the board. The board changed the process. Okay. The board changed the governance manual. And that's one of the things we have to remember here. Jill is 20% of this board. She can't do anything without at least 2 other people to back her up. And that's something that we have to remember moving forward. No one of us can do anything without having at least 2 other members of this board to back us. And that's kind of one of those checks and balances things. We don't have absolute power. Our chairman doesn't have absolute power. The only power she would be able to control us by would be the power to say that, well, you can't put that on the agenda this meeting, or to try to shut down public comment or something like that. And I haven't seen that. And I know in my tenure as chair, that was one of the things I was very adamant about. I don't care what you put on the agenda. Just do it and we'll figure out how to make the time. And Jill's been the same way. And if you want an agenda item, all you have to do is say, I want an agenda item. So as far as the changing of the governance manual, I voted in the affirmative on that. There was a compelling argument. So I don't think that was an abuse of power.
I guess I would question the motive. That's all I have to say for now.
Did you have a procedural?
Yes, you quote something out of the paper what that county council said. That is a misquote of what the law really says. So you need to go read the actual law, because what the actual law says is not what county council said.
Okay.
Out of the paper.
Want to continue, Dan?
I kind of want to try to weigh in on some of the public comment. I know one that I would like to answer was William Foster when he was talking about why this was fast tracked. I don't know that fast tracked is actually the word to use here for having this discussion we're having today. That was me. And the reason that I wanted to have this discussion is because I want the board, whether we want to or whether it's uncomfortable or not, we are going to make a decision today so that we are united and say, okay, either Jill's going to continue as our chair or she's not. And the reason I want to do that is so we can, the way this has been working out for the last several meetings is we've had a lot of public comment that's been directed at Jill Cox. Well, most of the issues that are being raised have ended up being full board decisions. So if there are issues there, that angst needs to be directed at the board as a whole. That would include me, not singling out Jill and saying, oh, well, the cannabis department's a wreck or this is a wreck and it's all Jill's fault. I was the chairman last year and cannabis didn't do very well either. So
Sam,
and
that is the issue. You haven't broken the law.
Sam, you'll have to leave.
Oh, he stopped the meeting last time to let TAA call Clinton. Yeah, he did do that, and he knew she was TAA. Let's go ahead and discussion. Would you like that? Let's go ahead and discussion. That's not the way I remember it. Let's go. And we can pull up the video. Let's go.
right, so the interruption. Oh, and also that was me that called for this meeting to have Jill removed, even though it's basically just a discussion. That's what I want to have, is to find out where we're going with this. And I hear the concerns, and I've read the emails more than I care to admit. One of the things I see, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an investigator. I haven't seen anything to me that says Jill's violated the law. If I did, I would have asked Jill to step down, not to have us remove her. And I think, personally, I believe that if we find something that was actually a violation, I have all the faith that Jill would step down. What I don't want to do is, because of some emails that look bad, but in full context might not be all that substantial, is to get involved in the whole cancel issue. I mean, it's been a cancer in our country lately that if you say something somebody doesn't like, then everybody that's associated with those people try to manipulate the system to make you look terrible, throw dirt until you're either forced to resign or somehow you're removed. That's not how I want to operate. I don't agree with Jill 100% of the time, not even. I've had several arguments with Jill on this dais in public. I 100% respect her right to have her opinion. She's representing a different district than me. The outcry from my district in this whole issue has still been that they can't drive on the county roads. They don't care who the chair of the board is. They care that they can't use the county road. So my concern here is, let's get beyond this problem. Let's get this in the rear view mirror. We have an investigation going on. If something comes up, we'll deal with that. In the meantime, let's get back to doing the business we should be doing. And that's my goal with this meeting. That's what I would like to see happen.
Can I ask the other board members, do the three other board members here, do anybody feel kind of slighted that we did not know that Jill was getting most of her information from the lawyer from TAA? I did not. But it appears that she got hundreds of pieces of advice that came to us at the board. And I know everybody's going to say, well, we're 20% of the board. But it seems a little bit behind my back type of thing that you are conversing with the lawyer for TAA while we're in litigation with the lawyer from TAA on things that have to do with our board and the people, my constituents in District 3 and Trinity County as a whole. And I know as some people sit up here and look at me and they say, oh, you know, you're pro cannabis. And I am pro legal cannabis. I think my district has half of the legal licenses in it. It is the economic driver for this county. Don't be mistaken that it's not. If we had a fully functioning program, and I think we're well on the way to getting there, this county would be on much sturdier ground financially. You can read every week in the paper how this county is getting poorer and poorer. Businesses are closing down, and the majority of that is due to the cannabis industry, and not so much, you know, our cannabis department or the board, but the industry in the whole has taken a hit. And I think that we do need to have a full cannabis program here. And I think that Jim Underwood and maybe TAA feels differently about that. So I just was surprised that the majority of the decisions that Jill was making were ran through the lawyer from TAA prior to coming to this board.
Well, I can answer personally, and then I don't feel slighted by any one of the people on this board seeking advice from anyone. Some of the people that I get advised by, whether I take that or not, people would be amazed at the people that I've listened to. It doesn't matter to me where we get our advice. If we're not, the question to me with the whole conversations with Jim Underwood is whether or not Jill gave Jim Underwood information regarding TAA lawsuit. I have not seen that in emails. There's emails between Jim Underwood and Jill talking about me. I don't care. I've had conversations with other people about Jill. I've had other conversations with other people about Heidi and Liam and Rick. That doesn't matter. As far as whether or not we share that with each other, that would be a violation. If I go ask somebody for information and get it and share it to you and Rick outside of a public meeting, that's a violation. So we can't disclose that to each other unless we do it here on the dais. So I don't feel slighted by that. I can personally say I wouldn't have asked Jim Underwood. Jim Underwood and I have had our tit for tat in the newspaper. There's no question that I don't think we're ever going to be bosom pals, but it doesn't, I don't care who you ask advice of, or Rick or Heidi. So
Heidi, did you want to respond?
I suppose that we all listen to a lot of people who disagree with each other. I have many people who send me emails or who stop me at the post office or at the high school or wherever I may be, and they share with me what they think I should do and what they think I shouldn't do and who they think I should listen to and who they think I shouldn't listen to. And they come from as far away from each other as you can imagine to the center of the aisle. And I think the most important thing is that we listen to the people who make up our districts. And I can, like Dan, say that the folks in the lower portion of my district, most of them don't know that this is, they don't know that this is happening. They want to make sure that they get the generator pad in for their water pump in the river this summer before the forest fires happen. They want to be able to drive on the roads. They want to be able to do so many of the other things that we work with and deal with. So it's important that we listen to everyone. I think it's important too that we make sure that we do it publicly when we share information. there was some of the stuff, you know, and some of the emails I thought, you know, gosh, that feels a little intense, but I never felt compelled that I was being made to, even up here, to agree with anything that anybody has to say. I think all of us represent ourselves well and our districts well. I hope to anyway. But for those of you that know me, no one's the boss of me. So I'm the puppet of no one. Unfortunately, I know that's disappointing to some, but I'm not. And anyone who's worked with me over the years would know that. The thing I probably get the most in trouble for is disagreeing and making my comments known. So just rest if that allows you. But yeah, I want to know what happened, and I want to see if there's anything illegal, and I want to know, we'll make a choice after that, I suppose, depending on how things go today.
And go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I just said my response to the question is no, I didn't feel like she needed to tell us who she was speaking to. And one of the things I just get troubled by is there's a lot of talk about bias, and yet there is a very specific bias to the people or a specific individual that Supervisor Cox chose to interact with. And my question is, if that was an attorney who represents the Pride community, if it was an attorney who represented the NRA, if it was an attorney who represented minorities of some specific kind, if it was, you know, choose your poison, would it be valid for us to say, how dare someone refer and confer with that attorney? But we seem to think it's okay to say that, well, this attorney, because of actions that he's taken that are not liked and that people associate with damage to the county, then that means it's bad, and so she should never have done that. And I really struggle with that. I've heard the word bigotry used before when we talk about cannabis stuff. To me, that is a form of that. So I just feel like we all get, as you guys have alluded to, we get our input where we get our input. And most importantly, as Supervisor Frazier has said, we come together with whatever we bring to the table and have discussions and make decisions together, each with one vote.
So I guess I would like to echo what Heidi said, that I get, you know, I work in my district in a very, very public place. I get my input from hundreds of different people, good, bad, and different, both sides of the story, and everything in between. And I also interact with every make and model of people in Trinity County, from what some people would consider the best and some people would consider the worst, and what I consider just the people of the county. So I kind of like to get my opinion about my district. I work there and I work with the people there in the public daily. I like to get a broad sense of what my district feels, wants, and then I try to intertwine it with what the rest of the county wants. But I get my information from hundreds of people, whether I like it or not, every week, every day. And that's what I base my choice off, is the hundreds of bits of information I get about what's going on now. I try to put those together and make the best decision I can for my district. So I guess what I'm saying is, as my focus is very wide. It's a broad lens from a bunch of different people in Trinity County, in District 3, that I probably have more interaction with the people of District 3 and this county than any of the board here, just by good fortune or bad fortune. But my scope of where I get my information from is broad and wide, and it comes from every different part. Poor, addicted, rich, you name it, I get it. And I think that's very, very valuable to make a educated decision on what we do here for my district and the county. And I think that if I were to go to the same person who came in my store and ask for their opinion, no matter who they were, several hundred times about something, that my opinion could be nothing but skewed that way. Thus, I kind of like the way that I get my information. It's from all sides, as I said. So it's certainly not biased, because I hear every single thing you can imagine. But when you take it all into account and you kind of think about all the things people have said in the last week or 3 or 2, it's certainly a huge range of information that I get, not a narrow focus. And I think Jill has at times used the narrow focus of one person who is part of TAA to guide her decisions that she brings to the board. And
I understand what your concern is there, Liam, but we only saw the emails that were requested that were to that one person. We don't know how many thousands of emails there were to other people. We didn't get to see any email from the other side of what she was requesting. So I'm sure that if I went back and thought about it, because we had 392 emails over a period of 2.5 years. I know that I have constituents that I've had more conversations about county matters with than 392 over that time. And that was spread out over 4 or 5 different people. So the sheer volume isn't as much as it looks when you say, well, that was 4 or 5 people spread over 2.5 years. Some of the people that I see on a regular basis that I engage with face to face about county matters, I see them 2, 3, 4 times a week. And they're into politics. And so every time we talk, it's about something that's going on at the county. Sometimes it seems like it's usually something that they're unhappy with at the county. That's what people usually bring to the table. And I have those conversations multiple hundreds of times a year with the same people. So I don't know. I also have the same conversations with people that are on the opposite side of the spectrum. So I don't know. It's difficult for me to make a decision based on some emails that were part of a PRA that we get to see the ones that are only to these people. We don't get to see the ones to everyone else. And I don't want to. Personally, if Jill has that many emails in 2.5 years to 4 different people, I don't want to read her whole inbox. I don't have that much time.
Nor do I.
So, and I just want to also comment, you raise, it sounds like a concern that Supervisor Cox's views could be skewed by certain interactions. And is there something about us having skewed views that you think means that we're not fit to serve in this role? Because we all have our own biases and we all have skewed views by whatever our experiences are and our interactions are. So I'm just trying to understand, what is it about having a quote skewed view that makes someone be unfit for office?
I think that where you get your skewed view from, the majority of the time it appears, and Dan could be right, maybe it's the minority of the time, tends to lead to an unbiased decision-making process. So I guess you can take that for what it's worth, but I can tell you right now, I don't have 400 emails from the same person telling me to do whatever or not to do anything. It just seems odd to me. It just really seems strange that the information that Jill was requesting came from TAA, multiple hundreds of times, and it just doesn't feel right to me. And maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm seeing this thing totally backwards. But there's just something odd about that. Is it illegal? Is it immoral? I don't know. Do I feel something is not right with it? Absolutely. And that's just my gut feeling. So I'll leave it at that. Everybody has their opinion here. Everybody has great opinions here. I think this board works pretty well together. So I value everybody's opinion that's spoken today. I hope this works out for the best of the county, best of District 3, and we get this behind us as soon as possible so we can, move forward and get things done. We need to get things done here. And, we were finally getting some things done. And now they're kind of, getting undone by this, unfortunate kind of thing we're going through now. And, it seemed to me that we were finally getting on track, and now we're getting off track again to the detriment of our county. We're this county suffering. We're in the poorest county in this state. And let me tell you, we're not getting any richer hanging out doing this stuff. So whatever the outcome is, I'd like to get this behind us. I don't know how long investigations take, what will come of it, but I said my piece for today, and I appreciate what everybody else on the board has said about the situation today.
Go ahead, Heidi. Sorry, Supervisor Carpenter Harris.
I know that for every person that's in this room right now, and for the 82 people that are watching via Zoom, that we would probably all recount this moment today differently, because we filter that through our personal experiences, what we value, and what we hear in our mindsets. And I think that's the beauty of systems and structures, is that when we lean back on the systems and structures that are set in place by law and by policy and what have you, then we are able to see both the forest and the trees. And so I believe that the strength in the body of government is in the process. It's in the systems and structures, because those are held for everyone. Sometimes they reveal things we disagree with. Sometimes they reveal things we agree with. But left to our own feelings and our emotions and opinions and biases, we're going to end up with a different result from each person that we're asked in this room today. And I think that's why it's so important to lean hard on the systems and structures that have been put in place, to process through investigation, and to, unfortunately, those take time and we have to wait through that. But it's part of why they work. Is truth and time are often partners. And so sometimes you have to let time pass for truth to be told. So let truth and time and process be the strength of our county government and our nation's government. So.
Thanks. Supervisor Frazier, I'd like to ask you something. When you were chair, my understanding is that as chair, you lead the effort of establishing who is on committees.
And you get, to pick the committee assignments basically, but then it's voted on by the board as a whole.
Okay.
So.
And I know a lot has been made about this now, full page ad about this email. And, just from my perspective, for the board's understanding, Supervisor Cox coming in as chair, as some people have alluded to, really trying to do her homework, was trying to think of what would be potentially a more effective way to organize the assignments of the committees. And she reached out to Jim Underwood, and she reached out to me, as you've noted. You can only reach out to one other supervisor. And so, as noted in that email, Jim put together his suggestions about some things. And from that, we had a discussion after a Rotary meeting, I think. And then Jill, Supervisor Cox, came forward with her recommendation that included grouping things by categories, like resource-related things and economic development-related things and so forth, and then tried to assign people to the extent that you assign them, but at least place them there for consideration based on that. So Liam and Heidi were assigned to a lot of the natural resources items because of their experience and their passion for those areas. And I was assigned to a lot of the economic development stuff. And I think you were housing related. I don't remember exactly. But my point is, she did a lot of homework to come forward with a strong, well thought out a set of assignments as a proposed set of assignments that was shared in an open session. There was board discussion. And as far as I could tell, everyone on the board had input and said if they thought they wished they were somewhere or not somewhere in those assignments. And then we voted and we approved it. So I struggle with this effort to turn this into a bad thing that Supervisor Cox was doing her homework and getting input from this particular person into that's an example of horrible TAA influence on the county. I cannot connect the dots.
Well,
and that's
we know you work for them too. We know you work for them.
And that, that to me is how many other ways are dots being connected that there's no connection. So that's part of the struggle I have. And I just wanted to clarify at least my perspective on that particular example.
And I would weigh in on that somewhat too, because whether it's TAA influence, TCAA influence, Southern Trinity Volunteer Fire Department influence, we're all influenced by people and by groups. And if any one particular person, I don't know, my email is pretty bleak because most people don't reach out to me by email, they call me. But if you were to find the one person in my email that gave advice and single that out and try to find something. And that's my issue here is it seems like what this has turned into is, I don't know, an indictment in search of a crime rather than vice versa. And so that's, to me, this whole thing started from bad timing. Maybe, who knows? The fact that we were involved in our county council review, and then this email string comes out, which has one page in it that looks terrible, and then it's devolved into this, well, county council's terrible, Jill's terrible, county council's great, and Jill's great. And that was never the question. So now we're to a point where my thought is we're being asked to remove Jill from the chair because she trusts an attorney that nobody likes.
Suing the county.
And if that's the case, there are some concerns that were raised. Scott White. Okay, I've read that email several times. To me, the thing there is that Jill reached out to Jim Underwood to say, did I do the right thing? How I voted. And that was after he was no longer Scott White's attorney and after we'd made the decision. And she was just reaching out to somebody that she trusted. It's not up to me to determine who she should trust. She reached out to somebody that she trusted and said, did I do the right thing? Jim Underwood wouldn't have been my choice. I probably would have been like, I don't know, my dad. Someone like that I trust and say, hey, did I do the right thing? The answer is not anybody but my business. It's not your business. And so I felt like, okay, I'm not offended by that email. I know Scott was not happy with that. I don't think there was a crime there. I could be wrong, but to me, in my brain, I have to be proven wrong. And then I had one other, and then I've thought back over past things that I've done, and I wasn't a supervisor, as a planning commissioner. Everybody knows that I started in 2015, 2016 with limited density rural dwellings, trying to get that through. Tom Belanco wrote the whereases for that ordinance while I was a planning commissioner. I didn't ask him to. It was something that he thought, hey, this is a great idea. And he did it. I used it. Does that mean that I was colluding with an attorney that was involved in litigation against the county? No, because it didn't have anything to do with litigation against the county. It had to do with he wanted to help me to pursue something that he thought would benefit the county and that I thought would benefit the county. So if we want to dive into the deep weeds, I'm sure that every one of us here could find something that if you use a fine tooth comb and a microscope, especially if you edit it so you don't have the full context, we could all be asked to step down. And that's the thing that bothers me about this is somehow this became, let's attack county council at every meeting and let's attack Jill Cox at every meeting. And we're already past that whole scenario. We were past that whole scenario when we got to this attack stage. We were done. And then this started. And so I want to get beyond this. I fully support Jill as the chair. I don't agree with everything Jill does. That's not why I'm here. If I agreed with everything that somebody on this board did 100% of the time, I would resign because I wouldn't be doing my job. And so I think we need to get beyond the whole accusations and pointing fingers. And I look at it and say, Jill is doing her job as chair. It's proven that she did something wrong, which like I said, I'm not a lawyer, but I haven't found it. If it's proven that she did something wrong, we'll have this discussion again. Until then, I say she should be the chairman and she's doing a fine job, and let's get on with life.
Okay. And I guess just my comment, because I really just wanted to get that one example out, but my comment is in my corporate career, especially with a lot of mergers and acquisitions that we did, we ended up doing a lot of reorganizations, and I personally had to let probably 1,500 to 2,000 people go. And some of that was in person, one-to-one, and some of that was in front of a group of 300 where I was having to close an entire office. And some of those people were very good friends, and I did my job. And as Dan stated, if we complete this investigation and we find something that any one of us did that deserves action, then I will not hesitate to take action. I, like several have mentioned here, believe that we need to let the investigation play out, deal with facts, not opinions, deal with facts, not conclusions jump to, and deal with facts, not dots that were connected that have no connection. And so, like you, I feel like we should move in the direction that you've made a motion and let Supervisor Cox continue in her role. As you said, it's mainly ceremonial. As I understand it, she's never rejected one item to go on the agenda. She's never cut off public comment, as you said. She is one vote. She lets everybody else speak first before she speaks. All those sorts of things that, as a chair, that I think she's doing, like you said, a good job. And if there's something to come out of this, whether it's her or any of the rest of us, then we all need to be held accountable, and we will be. And other people, we haven't got it on the agenda today, but there are other mentions of the committee assignments. And I can tell you from sitting on some committees with Supervisor Cox, she is very, very invested in those committees, and we would harm ourselves if she was removed from those committees during this time. So that's my set of comments. And unless there's other comments, we can take a vote
Or competing motions.
or competing motions. Okay.
The motion by Supervisor Frazier is to retain Supervisor Cox as chair. Supervisor Carpenter Harris,
Aye.
Supervisor Frazier,
Aye.
Supervisor Gogan,
Margaret, can I abstain? I'll abstain.
Vice Chair Lutweiler.
Aye. With that, there is no need for item 1.2, and the meeting is adjourned.